Hello. We're going into non-duality today. It's going to be exciting. Exciting isn't the right word. It is the nexus point of excitement and boredom combined together. Yes, no, both, and neither. Exciting, not exciting, all at the same time. Let's get right into it. Non-duality, the foundation of all of this Zen nonsense, a lot of this spiritual nonsense. 5D consciousness, I'm not sure what that is. I saw something about that very recently. This is some new age stuff. I'm not very familiar with it yet. I'm going to get more into it and maybe we'll talk about it. Anyway, non-duality. We're going beyond the yin, we're going beyond the yang, and we're going directly into reality, yin-yang, Tao, Buddha nature. So we're going to throw some names out there for what non-duality is. If you're going to be watching any of my videos, I'm going to probably use a lot of these names interchangeably, and usually when I start saying one of them, I'm gonna like run off on a lot more of them, but we'll do that. So, non-duality. One name is Tao. It's Tao, the way, the path. Tao also means non-duality. That's the thing, non-duality. Yin-yang together, non-duality. Not yin and yang, not yin or yang, yin-yang together, non-duality. Buddha nature, non-duality. Brahma nature, Christ consciousness, yeah, Christ consciousness. And then we get into fancy stuff like infinite love, or absolute truth, or the absolute, the infinite, things like that. This is all non-duality. Let me explain a little bit better, farther. Maybe less farther, whatever. It's hard to explain non-duality directly because it can't be spoken about. If it's spoken about, then you have a separation. You have the thing that you're speaking about, and then you have something that you haven't spoken about. So you've split it into two, which isn't non-dual. That is definitely dual. There's two things. Dual. Non-duality is not that, not two. There is no separation between one thing and something else. It is all one. One isn't quite the right way. A lot of people think of it as it's all one. It's not quite that, but once you understand it, then you can start using that word again. You can just say, yeah, it's all one. That's not quite how it is. But I could only give you analogies. So I'm going to give you an analogy. It's like if somebody flips a coin, bing, flip the coin, and they see it and it says, you know, it's heads up. You look at the coin. You know, I don't have a coin. I'm not a prop guy, but follow with me here. You look at the heads and you say, "What is this?" And you say, "Heads." You say, "No, no, 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 no. It's a coin." That's all it is. It's a coin. You do it again. You flip it again. You do the same thing. Tails. No, 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 no. It's a coin. So that is you see heads, you see tails, but you're supposed to see beyond headsness and tailsness and see the thing itself, the coin. It's just the coin. That is what a lot of the koans that we're doing on this channel, we're going to do a lot of koans, that is essentially what all of them are. They're flipping a coin and they're showing you if it's on heads or if it's on tails, and they're asking you, what is it? And the answer is always coin, but you're going to be tripped up. So the answer to every single koan is always yin-yang, or Tao, or infinite Buddha nature, you know, whatever. It's yin-yang. The answer is always yin-yang. But the question is going to confuse you. It's going to sound like they're saying yin or yang. It's going to sound like they're asking you to look at the particularities of the world. They're going to make it seem like there are separations between things. But they want you to see that there is no separation between things. And there's no real way to convey that effectively. So in the Zen tradition, the sort of way to do it is to give two directly contradictory things and then present it as a riddle or as a brain buster or as a mind screw. That's how people think of koans. That's sort of the idea, but it's not quite. They're doing that so you can see the yin and the yang at the same time, and then you kind of go beyond having yin and yang. You just have yin-yang. That's the idea, and I want to give another more expansive example of non-duality. So it'd be something like, if I show you my hand, I'm looking at, this is my hand, right? And you'd say, well, this is like the front of my hand. No, 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 not the front. This is my hand. Show this again. Say, well, that's the back of my hand. No, no, no. It's just my hand. And I do this again. And then you're like, well, that's the hand. And I say, no, actually, it's my arm. And then you keep doing this sort of thing. You say, well, this, what is this? You say, front of the hand? No, no, no. Back of the hand? Well, clearly not. Hand? Almost there. Arm? No, this isn't my arm. Keep pointing. You say, your upper body? I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is my upper body. And we just keep doing this over and over again. This, what is this? And then you say, you, it's me. Yeah, this is me. This is me. And I do this again. And then you're like, hand, you, arm, body, whatever. I say, no, no, no. This is Americans. What? Americans? Yeah, this is Americans, right? Because like, if you look at heads of a coin, it's still a coin, right? You're only looking at half of the coin, but it's still the coin. If you look at me, or my hand, or the front of my hand, this is still America, Americans. This is Americans, and so on. This is humanity. This is nature. This is the ecosystem, right? This is the ecosystem. This is Earth. This is the solar system. You see how we're going farther and farther beyond? This is the non-dual, right? Flipping a coin, and I'm showing you the front of my hand, but I want you to see the coin, and the coin is the solar system, all of the galaxies, the entirety of physics, all of the entire universe. And then I flip the coin again. I show you the entirety of the universe, and I say, this is it, the whole universe. No, 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 no. This is Tao. This is the Tao, which is including not the entire universe. It's including every possibility within the universe, which is every possibility at this moment in the present, everything that has passed, so everything in the past, everything in the future, so every possibility in the future, everything that would be congruent with physics, everything that could happen, everything that is not congruent with physics, everything you could think of, everything you can't think of, and so on and so forth. All of that is the Tao. All of that and more, because you can't think of it, right? Can't even conceptualize it. If I'm telling you about it, it's what I'm telling you plus more, plus the opposite of what I'm telling you. It's the yin and the yang, and so on and so forth. But then when we come back, I point to my hand again. This is the Tao right here. This is the Tao. This that you see is the Tao. Everything is the Tao. And this gets a little tricky with certain things. Let me think of an explanation. I think life might be a good one to. I'm giving try to give an analogy. Give me a second to think. I'll speed up the video. Okay, I'll use life. Life is a good example of this. So it gets strange with things that don't have an actual word for the higher. Let me explain. So if you have heads and you have tails, then you also have like the coin. You want to point to the coin. It gets tricky when we talk about certain things that don't necessarily have a name for it. So you have, for example, love and hate. And we'll say that's two sides of the same coin. But what do you call the coin? I don't know what you call the coin. A lot of people give it just the name that they of the two, whichever the two things they like, they'll call it that. So they'll say that the coin is called love, capital L, or infinite love, or absolute love, something like that, ultimate love. They'll use that language to say that is what love is. Love, absolute love, is the feeling that we feel of love, but also the feeling that we feel of hate. It's both of those things. There's that spectrum. So this also applies to something like life. This is kind of, we can sort of intuit, I guess. Intuit isn't the right word. We sort of understand this. When we think about life, we understand that life, like being a thing that's alive is life, and a thing that's dead is also life, right? The whole cycle of life. Life with a capital L, we're going to say here, to make it somewhat easier. But to try to follow along, we have life with the capital L, which is represented by life, like things being alive, and things dying. But if we were to go to a new planet, or if we go to like if we go to a forest and we see like after a big forest fire and everything's like burnt up, and there are lots of like, you know, lots of dead carcasses and all that stuff, we wouldn't think initially that this is life, but it is. I mean, even though it's like decaying trees and lots of dead animals, that's still life. That's a fundamental part of life, because, you know, life, capital L, life, right? Nothing is alive. I'm sure there are like bacteria and maggots and all that stuff, but that's not what we don't think of that as representing life, the cycle of life. It's not quite intuitive. And in that same way, this applies to like love and stuff like that. But it gets a little weird, because then we have other things that they don't use the, in different traditions, I'm not part of any of these traditions or lineages, they wouldn't use the affirmative words. It's not necessarily always using the affirmative. It might be using the negative word to represent the higher level thing. So you might be emptiness and form and formlessness. And you might call that the whole thing together emptiness, which gets really confusing. So form and formlessness are the same thing, or they're the opposites. They're opposites of each other. You need one for the other. We're not getting super into that, but you need the heads of the coin in order to have the tails of the coin. You need love in order to have hate. I'm spacing a bit here, so let's try to be focused. So there's emptiness and there's form, or form and formlessness, but both of those together make the bigger thing, which is emptiness. You might have meaning and meaninglessness, and those together somebody might call meaninglessness. It gets a little confusing. You might have what you consider yourself and then the rest of the universe, and together that may be called the true self, and otherwise it might be called the no self. But the language gets really weird, but it doesn't quite matter, because what they're referring to is the non-dual in the higher sense, in this sense, the Tao, the Buddha nature. But that's just something that we need to be careful of recognizing, because sometimes that happens in these koans. It seems like it's a little loose on when the word, like when death is referring to, you know, death as opposed to life, or when death is referring to life, death, the ultimate of that, which would be, you know, Tao and so on. It gets confusing, but it's not necessarily meant to be understood. I'm getting too too into it. So yeah, we're just gonna leave it there. That's non-duality in a very broad nutshell. Sort of give you a primer of what it is. You're gonna have to think a lot more about it, and when you think more about it, you're gonna get nowhere, which is kind of the fun part of it. Thinking and thinking and thinking, you get nowhere. So stop thinking. That's really what you want to do. You want to sit down, meditate, don't think. But also don't stop thinking. Don't try to see this again, thinking, not thinking, but stop thinking is both. When when you're not thinking, when you're meditating, it's not necessarily that you are not thinking. It's not necessarily that you are thinking. It's both and neither and all at the same time. It's the coin. It's not heads or tails. It's the coin. You can see why it's difficult to talk about. But anyway, that's non-duality. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. Comment down below if you think there are better ways to explain this, or if you think that I am spouting nonsense, because it's entirely possible. hit the subscribe button and the notification bell for more videos every single day. We're going to be talking about koans for quite a while because I'm very interested in this. And yeah, I want to drink tea and I want to save humanity. Oh no, oh no, oh no. I've lost my I drank some tea earlier. You can see my tea set there. So I'm feeling a little connected in a really strange way. So excuse the nonsense that am spouting. Anyway, lots of fun. Subscribe, like, comment, share. Share if you like to share. And also join me Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do Twitch streams, or I might be streaming here on YouTube. I do restreaming according to where I am at. Right now I'm doing restreaming. So 9 o'clock Eastern time here. I'll be doing this same sort of stuff, but talking more broadly for a couple hours. Anyway, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you very much for joining me, and watch more videos. Have a good one.